Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another useful and effective episode here at TalkFlow. I'm so happy you're here with me today. Out of all the podcasts you could be listening to, you chose this one, and that truly means a lot to me. Your time is valuable, and I promise to make this episode worth every minute. Simple, clear, and helpful for both your English and your life. Whether you're walking, studying, relaxing at home, cooking, or riding the bus, thank you for pressing play. Your support and your presence here really inspire me to keep creating episodes that help you grow. My name is Jason, and this podcast is more than just about learning English. It's about learning life skills that can make you stronger, happier, and more confident. Here we learn step by step, improving your English listening and speaking while also discovering ideas that can change the way you live. And today's topic, well, it's something special. We're going to talk about how to train your brain to think differently. Let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever wished you could change the way you think? Maybe you sometimes catch yourself thinking negatively. Maybe you feel stuck or too afraid to try something new. Or maybe you want to become more confident, more positive, and more creative. If that sounds like you, this episode is for you. Here's the good news. Your brain is not fixed. It's not stuck in one way of thinking forever. Your brain can learn. It can grow. And that means you can grow not just in English but in your habits, your decisions, your emotions, and your dreams. The way we think shapes everything. How we talk to ourselves, how we treat others, how we face challenges, and how we feel every single day. If we always think the same way, we will always live the same way. But when we start to think in new ways, more positive, more open, more creative, everything begins to change. Our confidence grows, our opportunities grow, our happiness grows. So in this episode, we're going to explore exactly how to do that. How to train your brain step by step to think in ways that make your life better. And don't worry, I'll keep the English simple and clear so you can understand easily and practice speaking along the way. Stay with me, my friends. By the end of this episode, you'll have practical, simple tools you can start using today to reshape your thinking and reshape your life. Let's get started. Welcome again to TalkFlow. What does it mean to think differently? So, what does it really mean to think differently? You may have heard this phrase before. People say it in motivational videos, books, and speeches. But today, let's understand it clearly and simply so you can use it in your life and also improve your English while learning this important idea. Thinking differently means changing the usual way you think. It means not always following the same thoughts or ideas you have believed for a long time. Sometimes we think in the same way every day without noticing. We react the same way to problems, say the same things to ourselves, and expect the same results. But when we think differently, we look at things in a new way. We ask new questions. We try to see different answers. We become open to learning, growing, and changing. Let's take a simple example. Imagine this. You make a mistake. What do you usually think? Maybe something like I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, or I always fail. These are negative thoughts. They make you feel small, weak, and stuck. But now imagine if you thought something different, like this mistake helps me learn, or next time I'll do better, or it's okay, I'm growing. These are positive thoughts. They don't ignore the mistake, but they change how you respond to it. This is one clear example of thinking differently, and it can change how you feel and act every day. Now let's talk about two types of mindsets. The first one is called a fixed mindset. This means you believe that you cannot change much. People with a fixed mindset often think, I'm just not smart, or I'm not good at English, or that's just how I am. When they face problems, they often stop trying. They feel afraid of failure. They don't believe they can grow. But then there is the growth mindset. This means you believe you can improve with time, effort, and learning. A person with a growth mindset thinks, I can get better, or I can learn if I keep trying, or this is hard, but I won't give up. They see mistakes as lessons. They see effort as a step forward, and they keep moving even when it's difficult. Thinking differently often means moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Let's make it even simpler with daily life examples. Imagine you want to speak English better. If you think, I can never speak fluently, your brain will believe it and you will stop trying. But if you think, I'm not perfect, but I can improve if I practice every day, then you give your brain power. You open the door for learning. You start looking for new ways to improve. That is thinking differently. And it's a very powerful tool for English learners like you. Another example, trying something new. Let's say your friend invites you to join a new class, or learn a new skill, or visit a new place. A common thought might be, no, I don't know how to do that. Or, it's not for me. But what if you say, I've never tried this before, but maybe it's good for me? Or, why not give it a try? That small change in thought opens a new door in your life. You train your brain to be curious, not afraid. Even in small situations like waking up in the morning, a usual thought might be, oh no, another busy day. That can make your whole day feel heavy. But if you change that thought to, today is a new chance to learn and grow, your energy changes. Your brain becomes more active, more hopeful, and more focused. This is why thinking differently matters so much. It affects your feelings, your actions, your relationships, and your future. Thinking differently doesn't mean ignoring problems. It doesn't mean being fake or pretending everything is okay. It means choosing better ways to think. It means taking control of your thoughts instead of letting your old habits control you. And the best news is anyone can do it. Even if your thinking has been the same for years, it can change slowly, gently, and powerfully. And just like learning English, training your brain takes practice. It's not magic. It's a skill. The more you practice, the stronger it becomes. So every time you choose a better thought, every time you ask a new question, every time you try a new way, you are thinking differently and you are building a better version of yourself. So now you understand thinking differently means not just changing your thoughts, but choosing better ones. It means believing that you can grow, learn, and become more than you are today. And this, my friend, is the first step toward a better life. Why? Our brain thinks the same way. Our brain is an amazing tool. It's always learning, remembering, and adapting. But one thing that many people don't realize is this. The brain loves habits and routines. It finds comfort in patterns. That's why over time we start thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and reacting in the same ways even when those habits aren't helping us anymore. This is where the idea of mental habits comes in. Just like we have physical habits like brushing our teeth, checking our phone, or drinking coffee every morning, we also have mental habits. These are patterns of thought that we repeat again and again without even noticing. For example, imagine someone who often thinks I'm not good enough every time they try something new. That thought might have started from one small experience like failing a test or getting negative feedback. But the more they repeated that thought, the stronger it became. Over time, it turned into a mental habit. The brain learns from repetition. When you do something once, your brain makes a small connection. When you do it again, that connection becomes stronger. And if you repeat it many times, the brain says, this is important, and builds a strong path for that thought. Think of it like walking in a field. The first time the grass is tall, but the more you walk the same path, the clearer and easier it becomes. That's exactly how our thoughts work, too. This is why our brain tends to think the same way over and over. It's not because we can't change. It's because we've practiced thinking in a certain way, sometimes for years. These repeated thought patterns become automatic. The brain is trying to help us by saving energy. It says, why think of a new solution when we already have one? Even if that solution is negative or unhelpful, the brain prefers to stick with what it knows. For example, imagine someone who always worries when they have to speak in public. Their brain has developed a habit speaking in front of people fear. So even before they open their mouth, the brain reacts with stress. That's not because they can't speak well. It's because the brain is simply following its usual path. The same thing happens with many of us. Whether it's about confidence, learning, or relationships, our thoughts often follow old routes because the brain finds it easier to repeat than to change. But here's the good news. Once we understand that these are just mental habits, we can start to change them. Just like we learn them, we can unlearn them and create better habits in their place. This doesn't happen in one day, of course. It takes awareness and daily practice, but it's 100% possible. The first step is simply to notice what are the thoughts that come up again and again. Are they helping you or are they holding you back? Once you become aware of these thought patterns, you have the power to pause and choose a new thought. This is where change begins. This is how you train your brain to think in better ways. In short, our brain gets used to thinking in the same way because it's trying to help us work efficiently. But sometimes that efficiency comes at a cost. It keeps us stuck in patterns that limit our growth. By recognizing these patterns and understanding how they work, we take the first step toward real mental freedom. And remember, a small shift in thinking can create big changes in your life. You don't need to change everything overnight. Just start with one small thought and walk a new path. The brain can change. Easy science. Now that you understand what it means to think differently, let's talk about something very interesting, something that many people don't know. It's this simple fact. Your brain can change. Yes, it's true. Your brain is not fixed. It is not stuck. It can grow, learn, and change at any age. Scientists call this ability neuroplasticity. Don't worry about the big word. Let's keep it simple. Neuro means brain. Plasticity means the ability to bend, move, or change shape. So neuroplasticity simply means your brain can change the way it works based on how you think, what you do, and what you learn. Think of your brain like a muscle. When you go to the gym and lift weights, your muscles get stronger. If you don't use your muscles, they become weak. It's the same with your brain. If you practice new thoughts, if you try new things, and if you challenge yourself, your brain becomes stronger. It starts to think in better, faster, and more positive ways. But if you always think the same thoughts, do the same things, and stay in the same comfort zone, your brain stays the same, too. Let's take another simple picture. Imagine your thoughts are like paths in a forest. Every time you have a thought, you walk down that path. If you think the same thought again and again, that path becomes very clear, very strong, and easy to walk on. But if you stop using that path and start walking a new one, the old path becomes weaker and the new one becomes stronger. Now, what does this mean for you? It means you can build better thoughts. You can change the way you think by choosing better thoughts every day. If you always think, "I can't speak English," that becomes a strong path. Your brain gets used to it. But if you start saying, "I'm learning to speak English again and again," your brain starts building that path instead. And over time, it becomes stronger. You start believing it. And when you believe something, you start acting in new ways, too. This is how your brain changes. It listens to your thoughts. It watches your actions. It remembers what you do often. And then it makes those things easier for you. That's why habits are powerful. That's why thoughts are powerful. And that's why you have the power to train your brain just like you train your body. You don't need to be a scientist to understand this. You just need to know this simple idea. Your brain is always learning. Every time you try something new, every time you practice a new skill, and every time you think a new thought, your brain is changing. Even right now, as you listen to this podcast in English, your brain is learning. You are growing. And that's amazing. Many people think I am too old to change or my brain just doesn't work that way. But that's not true. Science shows us that people can learn new things, change bad habits, and build new thinking patterns even in their 40s, 50s, 60s, or older. The brain is flexible. It is smart and it's always ready to grow if you are ready to try. Let's take one more simple example. Imagine you want to be more confident. If every day you say to yourself, I am confident or I believe in myself, your brain starts to accept that as truth. But if you keep saying, I'm shy or I'm not good enough, your brain believes that instead. Your thoughts become your truth. So choose thoughts that help you grow. Of course, this takes time. It doesn't happen in one day. Just like going to the gym, you need to train regularly, but the more you practice, the easier it becomes. One small thought every day, one new action every day. That's how change happens. That's how your brain becomes stronger, smarter, and more positive. So now you know your brain is not a rock. It is not stuck. It is not too old. It is alive, flexible, and ready to change. You just need to give it the right signals through your thoughts, your actions, and your words. You are not a prisoner of your past thinking. You are the creator of your new thinking. Remember this sentence. You can build better thoughts. Yes, you can. You are already doing it right now. And every time you listen, learn, and practice, you are training your brain to think differently. Isn't that amazing? Why most people don't think differently? Now that we understand how the brain can change, you might ask, if it's possible to train the brain to think differently, then why don't more people do it? That's a great question. The truth is most people don't think differently, not because they can't, but because there are certain habits and fears that stop them. And today we're going to talk about these common habits in simple words so you can understand them clearly and more importantly learn how to change them. One of the biggest reasons people don't change their thinking is fear of failure. Nobody likes to fail. It doesn't feel good. Many people are afraid of trying something new because they worry they will make mistakes. They ask themselves, what if I fail, or what if I look stupid, or what if I'm not good enough? These thoughts stop them from trying. So instead of changing their thinking and learning something new, they stay where they are. But here's the truth. Failure is not the enemy. Failure is part of learning. In fact, failure teaches us more than success. Sometimes when you fail, your brain gets a chance to learn, to grow, and to try again. Thinking differently means you stop fearing failure and start seeing it as a step forward, not a step back. Another reason people don't think differently is that they listen to negative people. Maybe you want to try something new like starting a business, learning English, or speaking in public, but then someone around you says, you can't do that, or, that's too hard, or, don't waste your time. These negative voices can be very powerful. They enter your mind and start to affect your own thoughts. Soon, you begin to believe them. You start thinking maybe they're right and you stop yourself from growing. But remember this, just because someone says something doesn't mean it's true. Many times people speak from their own fear, not from truth. You don't have to accept every word others say. Thinking differently means learning to listen to your own voice more than the noise around you. Another big reason people don't change their thinking is because they stay in their comfort zone. The comfort zone is a place where everything feels safe, easy, and familiar. You do the same things every day. You talk to the same people. You think the same thoughts, and it feels okay because you don't have to face anything new or scary. But here's the problem. Nothing grows in the comfort zone. If you always stay comfortable, you don't grow stronger. You don't discover what you're truly capable of. Thinking differently requires courage. It means stepping out of what feels easy and trying something new. Yes, it may feel uncomfortable at first, but that's how growth happens. So, let's take a moment to be honest. These habits, fear of failure, listening to negative people and staying in comfort zones are very common. In fact, almost everyone has experienced them. Even successful people. If you feel these things, it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means you are human. These habits are normal. But here's the good news. They are not permanent. You can change them. You can train your brain to respond differently. Instead of thinking, "What if I fail?" you can start thinking, "What if I succeed?" Instead of saying, "I'm not good at this," you can say, "I'm learning, and that's enough for now." Instead of listening to people who bring you down, you can choose to spend more time with people who lift you up, who believe in growth, and who inspire you to keep going. These small changes in thought can lead to big changes in life. It's important to be kind to yourself during this process. Don't expect to change everything overnight. Start small. When you notice a negative thought, pause and ask yourself, "Is this helping me or hurting me?" If it's hurting you, replace it with something better. When you feel fear, remind yourself that it's okay to be afraid, but it's not okay to let fear stop you forever. And when you feel the pull of comfort, remind yourself that you were made to grow, not to stay the same. So now you know most people don't think differently because they are stuck in habits. But you are not most people. You are here listening, learning, and growing. And that's proof that you are ready to train your brain to think differently. How to train your brain to think differently. Now that we understand what stops people from thinking differently, let's talk about how you can actually train your brain to do it. The good news is training your brain to think differently doesn't require anything special. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be perfect. You just need small daily actions that help your brain form new and better thinking habits. So now I'm going to share with you some easy tips that anyone can do and that you can start today. The first tip is ask better questions. Our brains listen to the questions we ask. If you ask negative questions like "Why is my life so hard?" or "Why am I so unlucky?" your brain will look for negative answers. But if you ask better questions like "What can I learn from this?" or "How can I grow from this problem?" your brain starts to find better answers. For example, if you fail an English test, don't ask, "Why am I so bad at this?" Instead, ask, "What can I do differently next time?" This small change helps your brain focus on growth and solutions, not just problems. The second tip is write down your thoughts. Your thoughts become clearer when you write them. Sometimes we feel confused or stressed because everything is in our head. Writing helps you slow down and see your thoughts with fresh eyes. You can keep a small notebook or even use your phone. Write down one good thought every day. For example, today I learned a new word, or I spoke English with confidence for 5 minutes. These small notes help train your brain to see the good and to focus on progress instead of perfection. The third tip is change one word. Yes, one word can make a big difference in your thinking. Let's say you often think, I can't do this. Try changing it to I can't do this yet, or even better, I can try. That one word try adds hope. It opens the door for action. Another example, instead of saying this is too hard, say this is a challenge and I'm learning. This small change helps your brain feel stronger, not weaker. Over time, these new words create new thoughts and better results. The fourth tip is be curious. Curiosity is powerful. It means you want to learn. It means you ask, how does this work, or what's something new I can try today? Instead of being afraid to try something new, curiosity helps you feel excited. For example, if someone invites you to a new event or activity, instead of saying, no, I don't know how to do it, say, I've never done this before. Maybe I'll learn something. Curiosity trains your brain to see new experiences as opportunities, not problems. The fifth tip is surround yourself with positive input. Your environment affects your thinking. What you read, what you watch, who you spend time with, these things shape your thoughts. If you are always listening to negative news, gossip, or complaints, your brain will start to think negatively, too. But if you choose to listen to motivational podcasts, read good books, and talk with people who support your growth, your brain starts to absorb that positive energy. For example, if you listen to podcasts like this one every day, even for 10 minutes, your brain gets stronger with better ideas. Little by little, you begin to think differently because you are feeding your brain with better things. These tips may seem small, but they are very powerful when you practice them every day. Remember, your brain is always listening. It listens to the words you use, the thoughts you repeat, the questions you ask, and the people you surround yourself with. If you give it good input, it will give you better output. If you train it with better thoughts, it will help you live a better life. Let me quickly give you an example. Let's imagine someone named Maria. She used to say, I can't speak English well. I always make mistakes. But one day she started writing down one good thing she learned every day. She changed her words from I can't to I'm trying. She began asking better questions like, what small thing can I do to improve today? She also stopped spending time with people who laughed at her and started listening to English podcasts and watching learning videos. After a few months, her thinking changed. And because her thinking changed, her confidence grew and her English skills improved, too. So remember, training your brain doesn't need big steps. It starts with one small change, one better question, one new word, one curious choice, one positive voice. And over time, your brain will follow your lead and think in a whole new way. Practice makes change. Daily brain habits. So now we understand how to train our brain with better thoughts. But here's something very important. Knowing is not enough. You must practice. Just like learning English or playing a new sport, changing the way you think takes regular effort. It's not something you do once and then forget. It's something you do a little bit every day. And the more you practice, the more your brain learns. The more you repeat, the stronger the new thinking becomes. Let me say it again. Practice makes change. Not practice makes perfect, but practice makes progress. And when you practice daily brain habits, your thoughts slowly begin to grow stronger, more positive, and more helpful. So, what can you do every day to help your brain think differently? Let's talk about some very easy and simple actions you can start today, even if you're busy or tired. These don't take much time, but they can make a big difference. First, try this one new idea a day. Each day, try to learn something new, even something small. It could be a new English word, a new way to look at a problem, or a new idea from a book or podcast. When you learn one new idea a day, your brain becomes more active. It becomes curious, and over time you start to see the world in new ways. You can ask yourself in the evening, what did I learn today? This simple question keeps your brain awake, growing, and ready to think better. Next, here's something powerful. One positive thought before bed. At the end of your day, before you sleep, try to think of one good thing. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe you helped someone. Maybe you listened to this podcast. Maybe you said something in English. Even small things count. When you do this, your brain learns to focus on the good, not just the bad. And when you sleep with a good thought, you wake up with better energy. Over time, this habit creates more peace and confidence in your life. Another important habit is to remember this rule. One mistake equals one learning. Most people feel bad when they make mistakes. They feel embarrassed, angry, or sad. But mistakes are normal. In fact, they are useful. Every mistake is a teacher. So instead of thinking I failed, try thinking what can I learn from this? For example, if you said something wrong in English today, don't say I'm terrible. Say, great, now I know what to improve. When you see mistakes as lessons, your brain stops being afraid. It becomes stronger, braver, and more open to new ideas. And here's something very simple but very powerful. Repeat a short affirmation every day. An affirmation is a sentence you say to yourself to build belief and confidence. It can be short, easy, and strong. Try saying this every morning or evening. I can learn. I can grow. I can think in new ways. Say it slowly. Say it with feeling. Even if you don't fully believe it yet, say it anyway. Because when you repeat something again and again, your brain starts to believe it. Your brain says, okay, this is important. And slowly your thinking begins to change. This is not magic. It's just practice and it works. You can even write this sentence on a note and put it on your mirror or your wall. Each time you see it, say it out loud. You can also record it on your phone and listen to it when you wake up or go to bed. This one simple action trains your brain to think more positively and confidently every day. These small habits, learning one new thing, thinking one good thought, seeing mistakes as learning and repeating a positive sentence may seem easy. But when you do them every day, they become part of your life. They become part of how your brain works and the result is real change. Slow, steady, and strong. So if you want to think differently, don't wait for a big moment. Don't wait for the perfect time. Start with small daily habits. Practice them with love, with patience, and with trust. Your brain will follow your lead. It will grow. It will change. And it will help you create a better life one day. One thought, one step at a time. Let me tell you a simple story about a young woman named Amina. She lived in a small town and always believed she wasn't very smart. In school, she struggled with math and science. No matter how hard she studied, her grades didn't improve. Each time she failed a test, she told herself, "I'm just not good at this. Maybe I'm not smart like other students." That thought stayed with her, and she began to lose confidence. She stopped asking questions in class. She stopped trying. Why? Because she already believed she couldn't change. One day, her teacher noticed this and gave her a small book about growth mindset. The title was, "You're Not Stuck. You're Still Learning." Amina didn't think it would help, but she read a few pages. The book said something simple. Your brain is like a garden. What you plant and take care of grows. That made her pause. Maybe her brain wasn't broken. Maybe she had just been watering the wrong thoughts. That night, Amina did something different. Instead of saying, "I'm not smart," she told herself, "I'm still learning and I can improve." That small change made her feel a little better. The next time she got a math question wrong, she didn't feel stupid. She felt curious. What did I miss? How can I understand it better? She asked herself. She also started a small notebook. Every night she wrote down one mistake she made and what she learned from it. Slowly her confidence returned. She stopped being afraid to raise her hand in class. Her classmates noticed she was asking good questions. Even when she didn't get the answer right, she kept trying. After 6 months of this new mindset, Amina finally passed a big math exam. It wasn't perfect, but it was her best result ever. Her teacher smiled and said, "See, you trained your brain to think differently." Amina laughed and replied, "It's true. I didn't need a new brain. I just needed new thoughts." This story shows us something powerful. Changing how you think really can change your life. Amina didn't become a genius overnight. She just stopped believing the old story that she wasn't smart. She replaced it with a new one. I can learn. I can grow. I'm not stuck. That new belief changed her actions, and her actions changed her results. Many people are like Amina. They think one bad result means they'll never succeed. But the truth is, one mistake can be the start of something better if we use it to learn and grow. You don't need a perfect brain. You just need a brain that's willing to try again, to think differently, and to believe in the power of small changes. So ask yourself, what old thought do you need to change today? Maybe you're one thought away from a better life. Let's take a moment to remember what we've learned in this episode. We talked about something very powerful. Your brain is not fixed. It can grow. It can improve. It can learn new ways of thinking. That is the big message of this episode. You are not stuck with the way you think today. You can change your thoughts, your beliefs, and even your life step by step. The key is to understand that your brain has something called neuroplasticity. This means it can build new paths and new habits with practice. Like a muscle, the more you train it, the stronger it becomes. Throughout the episode, we looked at how most people repeat the same thinking patterns every day without knowing it. Fear, comfort, and negative voices around us often stop us from growing. But once we become aware of these habits, we can start to change them. We can ask better questions. We can write our thoughts. We can change just one word from I can't to I can try. And these small changes, when repeated daily, start to rewire the brain. So let me ask you something. What is one thought you want to change today? Maybe it's I'm not smart enough, or I always fail. Can you turn that into something better, like I'm still learning, or this is hard, but I can improve? One simple change like this can begin a big shift in your mindset. And here's another question. How will you train your brain tomorrow? Will you read something new? Will you speak a positive thought out loud? Will you reflect on a mistake and see the lesson in it? These questions are not just for today. You can come back to them anytime. If you want to grow, you must think about your thinking. That's how real change begins. I also want to encourage you to listen to this episode again. Each time you will understand more. Your listening skills will improve, your vocabulary will grow, and your brain will keep learning. Repetition is one of the best tools for growth. If this episode inspired you or gave you something useful to think about, share it with a friend. You never know, your message might be exactly what they need today. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Here on TalkFlow, we're building a space where you can grow into your best self step by step, word by word, in English and in life. Before we finish, I want you to remember this. Every single day is a new chance to think differently and grow. You already have the power inside you. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You can begin right now. One new idea, one new word, one new thought. That's all it takes to start changing your life. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Keep going, keep learning, Keep growing and never forget you're doing better than you think.